This is the developer news for July the 9th, 2026.
Hi, we're coming to you this week from WeAreDevelopers conference in Berlin, which is a little bit of a difference for us developer advocates because we're actually mostly attending a conference instead of delivering one. So it's our opportunity to connect with other developers, particularly non-SAP developers from all around the world. I'm giving a session on Friday with Michael Onmerling, where I'll be doing a preview of the new developers.sap.com that's all AI powered, which we'll show you more of in the coming weeks. But what are the rest of you looking forward to?
Yeah, we just now attended one session on Microsoft Fabric, which was really exciting. And we also got to know the latest advanced technologies that we can look forward to. So it was really exciting to be part of that session, though the line was a little too long to get into the session.
Yeah, that's the challenging part to get into the session. But if to see the agenda, for me, the interesting part is the AI and agents, because it is not a surprise. But to be outside of the SAP ecosystem is what I'm interested to, and get to know more about what's happening outside of SAP.
So have you tried to find any sessions without AI or agents in the name?
No. Or agents. I think that was a qualifier probably.
Yeah.
Okay. And for me, actually, it is not the first time that I'm attending this conference. I was here in 2019, and it is really good to be back here. This time, SAP has a big presence here. We are actually one of the sponsors. We have our place on the show floor. We have sessions, as Thomas mentioned. He's going to do one with Michael Ameling, but as well, we have some other SAP colleagues delivering sessions based on the experience from their work, working with UI, for example, and with user experience in this exciting AI era. So all in all, no coffee, no code, but unfortunately, the line for coffee is the longest one here. So if you don't see me coding this week, that's just because I cannot stand in this line and get my coffee.
CDS 10 is out. That is the next major release of the SAP Cloud Application Programming Model. CDS 10 was published last week. This particular major release marks many major milestones and is packed full of goodness. Within the limitations of these news items, I can only give a brief overview, and you should definitely head over to the release notes in Capire, which are very readable and full of details. Some of the features and highlights are marked as alpha or beta, so please pay attention to these status badges when working through the content. Now, like other releases, the notes for this release are organised into different categories. There's the main major release upgrade category, of course, a set of important highlights, notes on changes and improvements for both the Node.js and Java runtimes, and some updates for multi-tenancy services as well. So let's start with the very essence of this major release, the upgrade and migration context and what that implies. Each of the packages that makes up the entire framework have had major release version upgrades. As the release notes say, don't mix old and new major versions. Instead, embrace change and try out the new CDS upgrade tool, which can help you. The runtime support is also changing with both Node.js and Java. And before leaving this upgrade context, I must highlight the facilities that the CAP team have put together for this essential part of the software lifecycle, upgrades and migration. There's a new migration guide to help you get to CDS 10 and a bleeding edge CDS upgrade facility in alpha to help you with upgrades. So next, let's have a look at some of the highlights, of which there are many in this release. Some of them are either in alpha or beta status, but they're there. Let me enumerate them briefly. There's support for aggregate data now in hierarchies, useful for product catalogs, org charts, bills of materials, and similar scenarios. It's available right now with the Java runtime, and support with Node.js is coming soon. For VS Code users, there's a new Project Explorer to help you visually navigate through your project and model's structures. Now, while this has been hinted at before this advent of CDS 10, there's a new protocol which I'm going to describe as CAP native, and that's now available. It's called HCQL, CQL conveyed over HTTP. Well suited for cap-to-cap integrations and available just by adding an HCQL annotation in the true CAP tradition of magic made simple. There are early AI related goodies too, in the form of CAP level, Khaleesi style agents, and also a CAP skills library, because as we know, focusing on intent and best practice in development is essential. There's a new data inspector, which comes in the form of a plugin and allows the controlled inspection of data in the entities exposed by your services. Now, event queues in CAP have also been given lots of love in the form of a new scheduling API, improved processing, and overhaul of the documentation. Now, last December, we saw the first public beta of the CDS export command, which we can use to create API client packages from CDS service definitions. With this CDS 10 release, that command is now generally available. Now, there are some more highlights in this CDS 10 release, but my good friend and colleague Antonio is going to cover those in another news item in this episode, so stay tuned. Let me now turn to the Node.js runtime context, where there are also plenty of items for us to celebrate. First up, consolidated service APIs. What does that mean? Well, the generic CRUD, create, read, update, delete handler now returns the same shape of data for all write operations. That means AppDB and HCQL proxied remote services all look and behave the same way, which is great for uniform and minimized handler code variations. Now, AI agents are great, but one thing they don't know much about is Fiori draft data. So working with active data has been simplified and consolidated, making it easier for everyone, us humans and our AI overlords, to work in a draft-first context. A massive piece of work that the team has undertaken over the last months, culminating in what we have with CDS 10, is a significant move towards a greater embrace of modern tools and native libraries. Very briefly, the testing framework vtest is now used in favour of Jest, which in the longer term will be abandoned. ECMAScript modules, that's ESM to you and me, is the official standardized system for packaging and reuse, and CAP is now embracing that as the default module system. Third-party dependencies are being dropped in favour of native or built-in alternatives. For example, this calendar year already has seen a move to a Node native SQLite driver, which replaces better SQLite 3, and to the Node native Fetch API, which replaces Axios, and in development environments also removes the need for the SAP Cloud SDK. This work to embrace modern techniques, native libraries, and the newest stable standards is fantastic. An important side effect of this is also something we can be happy about: a significantly reduced set of dependencies and thus a smaller install footprint and code surface area. Now, last but certainly not least in the Node.js category is some news on the telemetry plugin, which is now at version 2 after a major update, which also brings support for OpenTelemetry SDK 2.0. Next, let's look at the Java runtime category, which has now reached major version 5. Lots of new features, including, importantly, support for Spring Boot 4. There are also some important new minimum versions of major dependencies that you need to take care of. With CapJava 5, there are some changes that are not backward compatible, as in any major release, but the migration is made easier for us with a specific migration guide and also open rewrite recipes for automated code adjustments. Now, there are changes to CDS property defaults to align them with recommended settings for production use. The API methods that were deprecated in the previous major release and marked as for removal have now been removed. CapJava 5 now defaults to JDK25, which is a long-term support version. The SAP Machine 25 JDK with the SAP build pack, the SAP Java build pack, is recommended. With this new major CapJava release, search is harmonized with both Cap Node.js and wrap, and by default uses the SAP HANA search syntax, for which there is now full support. Fuzzy search is also now enabled by default on SAP HANA, with improved support for UUIDs and large strings, and available in hierarchy queries. Now, there's also much faster typed data access available. Instead of using a dynamic proxy to handle the underlying data map for accessor interfaces, it's now possible to have implementation classes generated. This results in up to 10 times the performance. Previously, CapJava used Apache's Olingo library for OData support. Now, following Olingo's retirement last year, there's now built-in support for OData. That's no mean feat. That, of course, also, yet again, means fewer dependencies, and it also brings improved performance. There's also support for creating active versions of draft-enabled entities, similar to what we learned about earlier in the Node.js runtime context. There are also plenty more features that come with CapJava 5. Check them out in the release notes. But to round off the release notes overview for this CDS 10 version, there are a couple of points to mention in the context of MTX services. First, there's now a stricter annotation validation for extensions. And second, migration support to go from SAP CDS MTX to SAP CDS MTXS has been removed. That pretty much wraps up things for this June 2026 major release. Congratulations to the entire CAP team for a huge set of new features and improvements. And don't forget to check out Antonio's item in this news episode for those other highlights.
Hey friends, Rich Heilman here. I hope everyone is staying cool, staying out of the heat. Good news for ABAP developers this week. ABAP Cleaner is now available as a VS Code extension, bringing its powerful code formatting capabilities out of Eclipse and into the modern editor of choice for many developers. So what does it do? ABAP Cleaner applies over 100 rules to your code with a single keyboard shortcut, automatically cleaning up formatting, modernizing syntax, and even flagging unused variables. The result is clean, consistent code across your entire team without anyone having to argue about style. You can run it as a quick one-shot format or drop into interactive mode to choose exactly which rules apply to your code base. If your team already has a configuration set up in Eclipse, you can import those rule variants directly. No need to start from scratch. The setup does require a Java runtime and a bit of environment variable configuration, but once it's running, you get the same functionality that ABAP developers have relied on in ADT in Eclipse, now in a much lighter, faster editor. If you're doing ABAP development in VS Code, this one's worth installing. Check it out today.
Hello everyone. Code Connect is next week from 13th to 16th July 2026. For all of you who cannot join us in person, there are live streams available for UI5Con and recap from the main stage. Please check out the agenda and streaming links available for UI5Con and recap and join us online during the Code Connect event. Links to the live stream and agenda will be available in the description.
Hola, SAP developers. As you already know, the June 2026 CAP release is huge. DJ has already shared many of the highlights, and I just want to mention a couple more. There is a new AI plugin in alpha, which simplifies integration with SAP AI Core. It would automatically resolve service bindings, manage resource groups, and AI model deployments. And it provides a standard AI Core service to interact with AI Core programmatically. The new data privacy plugin in beta for Node.js, which provides out-of-the-box integration with the SAP Data Privacy Integration Service. Based on the personal data and ILM annotations in the data model, the plugin will automatically expose two endpoints that can be consumed by the service. Now, related to the integration space. CAP Node.js now supports the event mesh capability in SAP Integration Suite as an alternative to the standalone SAP event mesh, meaning that you can now easily use it as an event broker in your CAP applications. There is the new MCP protocol adapter, which allows exposing existing CAP services to AI agents and LLM-powered applications as just another protocol. Just install the plugin and annotate services with @MCP, and voila, your CAP service exposes MCP functionality. Extremely powerful and easy to implement. I already used it in a CAP service that I'm developing while I was getting familiar with the new feature of SAP Integration Suite. Yes, what we've all been waiting for. The new MCP Gateway is now available as part of Integration Suite. It is part of the new Integration Cell runtime, which is a cloud-native runtime purposely built for designing, deploying, and operating APIs and MCP servers. It is GA now and being rolled out in the enhanced and premium editions of SAP Integration Suite. Not just that, but it is also available in the BTP trial environment. What are you waiting for? Go check it out. Hasta luego.
Did you know that CDS Add Test generates the best practices for the test implementation of your CAP service? One can rapidly create a sample CAP project with CDS init bookshop -add sample. Run CDS Add Test in the terminal to add test suite files for all the defined CAP services in your existing project. It creates the latest boilerplate files and structures required for you to get started with your test implementation in a jiffy. For each services, it generates a sample test for the GET request for an entity and a test for any action if defined in the service. This also adds the test dependencies to your project. It uses the node test runner for the test. Install your dependencies and just run npm-t to execute your tests. The generated test implementation does need to be tweaked for the valid test data. CAP also provides a command npx cds test to mute the verbose server output and lets you focus only on the failing tests. Use -u to unmute the server output when you do not need them. Enjoy your CAP tests.